Hello, good evening, and welcome back to Michael Reads. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we continue our exploration of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, arriving now at Book 5. We are already at Book 5. And if you have noticed, I am in a different location as I am currently away with the family on a little holiday. Um, Fortunately, and thanks a lot to my wife and kids who've just given me the time that I need to have this live done. As one of my goals and one of my aims with Michael Reads is to remain consistent with my uploads and my lives. Well, I should start uploading soon, but with my lives, um, so no matter where I am, I will make time to be with you so that um, we keep learning, we keep growing, and we keep absorbing all that positive literature. And you might have occasions where my kids might run in today. I just had one of those little occasions, but you gotta excuse them. They're kids; they don't really know or understand. Book 5, it's a section that carries a different weight, one that feels more immediate, more grounded, and far more demanding than we have encountered so far since we started this book. What stands out here is not elegance or philosophy dressed in abstraction, but rather a raw and unfiltered confrontation with responsibility, where the author is not speaking outwardly to an audience, but inwardly to himself in a moment of resistance. Within these passages, we witness a man grappling with the simplest yet most difficult task of all, getting up and doing what must be done, despite discomfort, despite reluctance, and despite the pull towards ease. There is no performance in those words, no attempt to impress, only a deliberate effort to align thought with action in its purest form. Before we go any further, please take a moment to recognize something important. If these lessons are helping you think differently, act more decisively, and hold yourself to a higher standard, then don't remain on the outside looking in. Step into the community we're building here. Support the stream by liking it. Um, Share the message with someone who needs direction, and subscribe to the channel. Invite others to subscribe to the channel, to Michael Reads, and commit to returning. Growth requires consistency, and consistency is easier when you surround yourself with the right environment. Book 5, it opens with a confrontation that feels more instantly familiar, as it captures that quiet internal negotiation that takes place the moment we wake up, when warmth and stillness attempt to convince us that staying where we are is somehow justified. Instead of accepting that argument, Marcus challenges it directly, reminding himself that existence was not designed for comfort but for contribution, and that every living thing fulfills its role without hesitation. Through this lens, the comparison becomes unavoidable. A bee does not question its purpose within the hive, nor does a tree resist its natural inclination to grow towards light. Yet human beings, equipped with reason and awareness, often find themselves delaying action in favor of temporary ease. The message here is not subtle, as it calls for a shift in identity, moving away from comfort seeking behavior and towards purposeful engagement with the tasks that define our role. As the reflections continue, attention turns toward the internal voice that encourages delay, often disguised as logic or self-care, yet rooted in avoidance. Marcus refuses to entertain that voice, instead reinforcing the idea that doing what is right should not depend on how one feels in the moment, because feelings are inconsistent while duty remains constant. This distinction becomes critical when considering how often modern thinking prioritizes emotion over responsibility, leading to hesitation, procrastination, and ultimately inaction. By removing emotional negotiation from the equation, what remains is a clear expectation: act in accordance with what is right, regardless of resistance, regardless of mood, and regardless of perceived inconvenience. And a recurring theme throughout this book is the removal of unnecessary complexity, as Marcus repeatedly brings himself back to a simple framework: do what is necessary, do what is right, and do it well. Overcomplication in this context is revealed as a distraction, something that clouds judgment and delays execution rather than improving outcomes. In everyday life, it becomes easy to create narratives that justify delay, constructing mental barriers that make straightforward tasks appear overwhelming. By stripping back everything, by stripping everything back to its essential components, clarity is restored, allowing action to take precedence over overthinking, and process to replace stagnation. And another layer of reflection emerges in the way Marcus approaches interactions with other people, particularly those who act out of ignorance or self interest. Instead of responding with frustration or allowing external behavior to dictate his own, he emphasizes the importance of maintaining internal stability, recognizing that losing control of oneself is far greater failure than dealing with the actions of others. This perspective shifts responsibility inward, placing the focus on personal conduct rather than external circumstances, and reinforcing the idea that integrity must remain intact regardless of the environment. By doing so, emotional reactions are replaced with measured responses, ensuring that one's principles are not compromised by the unpredictability of others. And humility plays a quiet yet powerful role in Book 5, as Marcus continually revisits his own thoughts, correcting and refining them without hesitation. There is no expectation of perfection, only a commitment to improvement, where each moment presents an opportunity to realign with what is right. This ongoing process highlights the importance of awareness, as growth is not achieved through flawless execution, but through consistent correction, where mistakes are acknowledged and adjusted rather than ignored or justified. Over time, this approach builds resilience, reinforcing discipline through repetition and conscious effort. Time is addressed with a sense of urgency that does not rely on dramatic language, but instead presents a simple and undeniable truth: every passing moment is one that cannot be reclaimed. With this in mind, the question becomes unavoidable: how should that time be used? Complaints, delays, and distractions begin to lose their appeal when viewed through this perspective, as each represents a missed opportunity to act, to improve, and to contribute. By recognizing the finite nature of time, priorities become clearer and the focus shifts towards meaningful action rather than passive existence. So, if you could relax, take a seat as I go through Book 5 now. Put your headphones in, listen. Hopefully, my sound is coming through correctly. I'll just have a look, see. But yeah, here we go. This is book 5. In the morning, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present: I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this, to lie in the bedclothes and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take pleasure, and not at all for action or exertion? Do you not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order their several parts of the universe? And are you unwilling to do the work of a human being? And do you not make haste to do that which is according to your nature? But it is necessary to take rest also. It is necessary, however. Nature has fixed bounds to this too. She has fixed bounds both to eating and drinking, and yet you go beyond these bounds, beyond what is sufficient. Yet in your work it is not so. You stop short of what you can do, so you don't love yourself. For if you did, you would love your nature and her will. There are those who love several arts and exhaust themselves working at them unwashed and without food, but you value your own nature less than the turner values the turning art, or the dancer the dancing art, or the lover of money values his money. And such men, when they have a violent affection to a thing, choose neither to eat nor to sleep rather than to perfect the things which they care for. But are the acts which concern society viler in your eyes and less worthy of your labor? How easy it is to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately to be in all tranquillity. Judge every word and deed which are according to nature to be fit for you, and don't be diverted by the blame which follows from any people or by their words. But if a thing is good to be done or said, do not consider it unworthy of you. For many people have their peculiar leading principle and follow their peculiar movement. Which things do you regard? Go straight on, following your own nature and the common nature, and the way of both is one. I go through the things which happen according to nature until I shall fall and rest, breathing out my breath into the element out of which I draw it daily, and falling upon that earth out of which my father collected the seed, and my mother the blood, and my nurse the milk, out of which during so many years I have been supplied with food and drink, which carries me when I take it and use it for so many purposes. You say men cannot admire the sharpness of their wits. Be it so, but there are many other things which you cannot say. I am not formed from nature. Show those qualities when then which are altogether in your power: sincerity, gravity, endurance of labor, aversion to pleasure, contentment with your portion and a few things, benevolence, frankness, no love of excess, freedom from irrelevant thoughts. Do you not see how many qualities you are immediately able to exhibit, in which there is no excuse of natural incapacity and unfitness, and yet you still remain voluntarily below the mark? Or are you compelled, through being defectively furnished by nature, to be quiet, and to be stingy, and to flatter, and to find fault with your poor body, and to try to please men, and to make great display, and to be so restless in your mind? No, by the gods, but you might have been relieved from these things long ago, only if in truth you can be charged with being rather slow and dull of comprehension. You must exert yourself about this also, not neglecting it or taking pleasure in your dullness. One man, when he has done a service to another, is ready to note it down on his account as a favor given. Another is not ready to do this, but still in his own mind he thinks of the man as his debtor, and he knows what he has done. A third man does not even know what he has done, but he is like a vine which has produced grapes, and seeks for nothing more after it has produced its proper fruit. As a horse after a run, a dog when he has hunted, a bee when it has made honey, so a man when he has done a good act does not call out for others to come and see, but he goes on to another act, as a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season. Must a man be one of these who in a manner acts without observing it? Yes, but this very thing is necessary, the observation of what a man is doing, for, it may be said, it is characteristic of the social animal to perceive that he is working in a social manner, and indeed to wish that his social partner also should perceive it. It is true what you say, but you do not rightly understand what is now said, and for this reason you will become one of those who I spoke of before, for even they are misled by a certain show of reason. But if you will choose to understand the meaning of what is said, do not fear that for this reason you will omit any social act. Just as we understand when it was said and prescribed to bathe in cold water or go without shoes, so we must understand it when it is said that the nature of the universe can prescribe to man disease or mutilation or loss or anything else of the kind. Prescribe means something like this: he prescribed medicine for this man, and the man adapted to procure health. And in another sense, it means that which happens to or suits every man is fixed in a manner for him suitable to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are prescribed to us, as the workmen say of squared stones in walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable when they fit them to one another in some kind of connection, for this is harmony. And as the universe connects all things, let us then receive our prescriptions. As a matter of our course, we accept them in the hope of health. Let the perfecting and accomplishment of the things which the common nature judges to be good be judged by you to be of the same kind to your health. And so accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable. It leads to the health of the universe. The universe will not prescribe this if it were not useful for the whole. Neither does the nature of anything, whatever it may be, cause anything which is not suitable to that which is directed by it. For two reasons, then, it is right to be content with that which happens to you. The one, because it was done for you and prescribed for you, and in a manner had reference to you, originally from the most ancient causes spun into your destiny, and the other, because even that which comes severally to every man is the power which administers the universe in a perfect way, even if of its very continuance. For the integrity of the whole is mutilated. If you cut off anything in conjunction with the continuity either of the parts or of the causes, and if you do cut off as far as it is in your power, when you are dissatisfied, and in a manner try to put anything assigned to you out of your way. Be not disguised, nor discouraged, nor dissatisfied if you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles. But when you fail, return back again, and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature. And to love that to which you return, and do not return to philosophy as if it were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply cream, or as another applies a plaster, or drenching with water. If you will, you will not fail to obey reason, and you will resist in it. And remember that philosophy requires only the things which your nature requires. It may be objected, but what is more agreeable than what I am doing? This is the very reason why pleasure deceives us. And consider if generosity, freedom, simplicity, and calmness are not more agreeable. What is more agreeable than wisdom itself, when you think of the security and the happy course of all things which depend on the faculty of understanding and knowledge? Things are in such a kind of envelopment and obscure to philosophers, and to some altogether unintelligible. Even the Stoics themselves had difficulty understanding. All of our approval is changeable, but where is the man who never changes? Carry your thoughts then to the objects themselves, and consider how short-lived they are and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a worthy wretch, or a whore, or a robber. Turn to the morals of those who live with you. It is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them, to say nothing of a man being hardly able to enjoy himself. In such darkness, then, and dirt, and in such constant flux, both of substance and of time, and of motion and of things moved, what is there worth being highly prized, or even an object of serious pursuit? I cannot imagine. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to comfort himself, and to wait for the natural dissolution, and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in those principles only: the one, that nothing will happen to me which is not conformable to the nature of the universe, and the other, that it is in my power never to act contrary to my inner God, for there is no man who will compel me to this. At present, in what pursuits am I employing my own soul? In every occasion I must ask myself this question, and inquire what have I now in this part of me which they call the ruling principle? And whose soul do have I now? That of a child, or of a young man, or of a feeble woman, or of a tyrant, or of a domestic animal, or of a wild beast? There are things which appear to be good to many, and we may learn from this. For if any man should conceive certain things as being really good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude, he would not, after having conceived of these, endure to listen to anything which is not in harmony with these. But if a man has first conceived of bad things to be good, he will listen and readily receive that which is said by the evil person. receiving all that is said of wealth and of the means which further luxury and fame. Go on then and ask if we should value and think about those things which are not good, to which after they are conceived in the mind, someone may say, he who has those thoughts has no place of ease in himself. I am composed of the formal and the material, and neither of them will perish into non existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non existence. Every part of me then will be reduced by change into some part of the universe, and that again will change into another part of the universe, and so on forever. And by consequence of such a change, I too exist, and my mother who conceived me, and so on forever into the past. Nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to the definite periods of revolution. Reason and the art of reasoning, known as philosophy, are powers which are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. None of these things should be called a man's, which do not belong to him. They are not required of a man, nor does man's nature promise them, nor are they means of man's nature attaining its end. Neither then does the end of a man lie in those things, nor that which aids in the accomplishment of this end, and that which aids towards this end is that which is good. Besides, if any of these things did belong to man, it would not be right for a man to despise them and to set himself against them, nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things, nor would he have denied himself any of them be good, if indeed these things were good. But now, the more of these things a man deprives himself of, or of other things like them, or even when he is deprived of any of them, the more patiently he endures the loss. In the same degree, he is a better man. Habitual thoughts also will be the character of the mind, because the soul is dyed by the thoughts. Diet when diet then with a continuous series of such thoughts as those, for instance, that where a man can live, there can also there he can also live well, but he must live in a palace. Well then, he will also live well in a palace. And again, consider that for whatever purpose each thing has been constituted, it has been constituted, and towards this it is carried, and its end is in that towards which it is carried. And where the end is, there also is the advantage and the good of each thing. Now the good for the reasonable animal is society, for that we are made for society has been shown above. Is it not plain that the inferior exist for the sake of the superior? But the things which have life are superior to those which have no life, and of those which have life, the superior are those which have reason. To seek what is impossible is madness, but it is not impossible that the bad should do something of this kind. Nothing happens to any man which he is not formed by nature to bear. The same things happen to another, and either because he does not see that they have happened, or because he shows a great spirit, he is firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame then that ignorance and excessive pride should be stronger than wisdom. Things themselves did not touch the soul, not in the least degree. They have admission to the soul. nor can they turn or move the soul, but the soul turns and moves itself alone, and whatever judgments it may think proper to make, so it makes judgments on things which present themselves to it. In one respect, man is the nearest thing to me, so far as I must do good to men and enjoy them. But so far as some men make themselves obstacles to my proper acts, man becomes to me one of the things which I am indifferent to, no less than the sun or wind or a wild beast. Now, it is true that these may impede my action, but they are not impediments which affect me and disposition, which have the power of acting conditionally and changing. For the mind converts and changes every hindrance to its activity into an aid, and so that which is a hindrance is made a furtherance to an act, and that which is in an obstacle on the roads helps us on this road. Reverence that which is best in the universe. The best is that which makes use of all things and directs all things. And in a similar manner, also reverence that which is best in yourself, and this is of the same kind as that. Because in yourself, that which makes use of everything else is the best, and your life is directed by this. That which does no harm to the state does no harm to the citizen. In the case of every appearance of harm, apply this rule. If the state is not harmed by this, neither am I harmed. But if the state is harmed, I must not be angry with him who does harm to the state. Show him where his error is. Often think of the rapidity with which things pass by and disappear, both the things which are and the things which are produced. For substance is like a river in a continual flow, and the activities of things are in constant change, and the causes work in infinite varieties, and there is hardly anything which stands still. And consider this which is close to you, this boundless abyss of the past and of the future in which all things disappear. How then is he not to fool who is full with past and future thoughts, plagued by them, and makes himself miserable? Think of the universal substance of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you, and of that which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it you are. Does another do me wrong? Let him look to it. He has his own disposition, his own activity. I now have what the universal nature wills me to have, and I do what my nature now wills me to do. Let the part of my soul which leads and governs be undisturbed by the movements in the flesh, whether of pleasure or of pain, and let it not unite with them, but let it restrict itself and limit those effects to their parts. But when these effects rise up to the mind by virtue of that other energy that naturally exists in a body which is all one, you must not strive to resist the sensation because it is natural, but don't let the ruling part of yourself add to the sensation the opinion that it is either good or bad. Live with the gods. Someone who lives with the gods constantly shows to them his own soul is satisfied with that which is assigned to him, and that it denies all the bad wishes, and that Zeus has given to every man for his guardian and guide a portion of himself, and this is every man's understanding and reason. Are you angry with him whose armpits stink? Are you angry with him whose mouth smells foul? What good will this do you? He has such a mouth, he has such armpits. It is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. But the man has reason, it will be said, and he is able, if he takes pain, to discover where he offends others. I wish them well of their discovery. Well, then, you have reason by your rational faculty to stir up his rational faculty, show him his error, reprimand him, for if he listens, you will cure him, and then there is no need of anger. You intend to live when you go out, but it is in your power to live here. But if men do not permit you, then get out of that life, so you are suffering no harm. The house is smoky, so I quit it. Why do you think that this is any trouble? But so long as nothing of the kind drives me out, I remain, I am free, and no man shall hinder me from doing what I choose, and I choose to do what is according to the nature of the rational and social animal. The intelligence of the universe is social. Accordingly, it is made the inferior things for the sake of the superior, and it has fitted the superior to one another. You see how it is subordinated, coordinated, and assigned to everything its proper portion, and has brought together into concord with one another the things which are best. How have you behaved up until now to the gods, your parents, friends, children, teachers, and those who looked after you in infancy? Consider if you have up until now behaved to all in such a way that this may be said of you. Never has he wronged a man in deed or word. And call to recollection how many things you have passed through, and how many things you have been able to endure, and that the history of your life is now complete, and your service has ended. And how many beautiful things have you seen, and how many pleasures and pains you have despised, and how many things called honourable you have created, and how many ill-minded people you have shown a kind disposition. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls disturb him who has skill and knowledge? What soul then has skill and knowledge? That which knows beginning and end, and knows the reason which pervades all substance, and through all time by fixed periods administers the universe. Soon, very soon, you will be ashes or a skeleton, and not even a name. And the things which are much valued in life are empty and rotten, and like little dogs biting one another, and little children quarrelling, laughing, and then straightway weeping. But fidelity and modesty and justice and truth are run away from. What then is there which still keeps you here? If the objects of sense are easily changed and never stand still, and the organs of perception are dull and easily receive false impressions, and the poor soul itself is in an exhalation from blood, to have a reputation in such a world as this is an empty thing. Why then do you not wait in tranquillity for your end, whether it is extinction or removal to another state? And until that time comes, what is sufficient? Why, what else then than regard with respect the gods and bless them, and to do good to men, and to practice tolerance and self-restraint, but as to everything which is beyond the limits of the poor flesh and breath, to remember that this is neither mine nor in my power. You can pass through life in an undisturbed flow of happiness if you can take the right path and think and act in the right way. These two things are common both to the soul of God and to the soul of man, and to the soul of every rational being, not to be hindered by another, and to hold good to consist in the disposition to justice and the practice of it, and in this to let desires find their termination. Do not be carried along inconsiderately by the appearance of things, but give help to all according to your ability and to their fitness. And if they should have sustained loss in matters which are different, do not imagine this to be damage, for it is only a bad habit. When you are calling out on the stage, have you forgotten what these things are? Yes, they are objects of great concern to these people. Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it, but I don't know how. But fortunate means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune, and a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions. What Book 5 ultimately delivers is not comfort, but a standard, a way of operating that demands consistency and discipline, and ownership at every level. Rather than offering complex theories, it presents a straightforward expectation. Get up, do your work, act with integrity, control your responses, and make proper use of the time available to you. Although these principles may appear simple on the surface, living them requires effort because it involves choosing discipline over ease, action over delay, and responsibility over excuse, again and again without exception. At its core, this aligns with a principle I stand by fully, taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens in life, without condition and without exception. Because once ownership is accepted, progress becomes inevitable. So if something in this message resonated with you, then let it be more than a passing thought. Take action, support the channel by liking the video, share it with someone who needs this perspective, subscribe to Michael Reads, and commit to showing up. Growth doesn't happen by chance, it happens by decision. And as you move into tomorrow, when the moment comes to either rise or remain where you are, remember what has been discussed here tonight and ask yourself a simple question. Are you choosing comfort or are you choosing purpose? So with that, thank you for being here. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will surely see you all on the next one, which is scheduled. Please turn your notifications on to be alerted to that. And thank you for joining me on Michael Reads. Take care. Goodbye.